Hey, John.
Hey Eric, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing all right. I'm doing all right.
That's good. That's good. Happy ex Father's Day.
Ex
I mean,
Father's Day.
like 3 days
Post
past
Father's
Father's Day,
Day.
post Father's Day, unfather's
Ex
Day. Happy unfather's
Ex
Day.
Father's Day. I'm like, do you know something I don't?
Oh, sorry, no, I was thinking that Merry, very merry unbirthday, but evidently un and
Right.
ex are two different prefixes, and they mean different
Well,
things. um,
English is hard.
did you have a good Father's Day?
I did. I did. As per usual, I grilled meat. I guess that's the TLDR. And it was glorious.
And was it tasty?
Yes, it was. I tried a soy-based kind of an Asian soy, ginger, garlic, molasses
Ooh,
marinade.
marinade.
Yeah,
Yeah.
with some onion. Anyways, it turned out really, really good. I was quite happy with it.
How long did you let it soak in there?
Only about 3 hours, so not
Okay.
a long time, but long enough.
Not like overnight.
It wasn't overnight, so it didn't break. It didn't get in and break everything down. But and the marinade also had lime juice in it, so
Okay.
you don't want to let that sit overnight. Otherwise, your
Yeah,
meat
you'll
becomes
come in
mush.
with mush.
Yeah, so 3 hours was just right. And it was very tasty. It went very nicely with my mashed potatoes, and I made balsamic Parmesan roasted Brussels sprouts,
Okay.
which were
I like roasted Brussels sprouts.
not as good as I had hoped. They were very tasty, but not as good as my brain thought they were going to be. But I have I have zero complaints.
Brussels sprouts have a bathtub distribution.
Yes, they're either really good or they're less
They're less really good.
less really good. That is a accurate way to apply to Brussels sprouts. So,
Well, that's good. That's good.
how was your Father's Day?
Well, so my wife was like, "Ooh, what did I do? I forget what we did in the morning. I think I mostly like puttered and kind of worked around in the morning." But then my wife was like, "So what do you want to do for lunch?" And we should, because we had a thing in the evening. Talk about that in a moment. But there was lunch available, and she was like, "Well, where do you want to go?" And I was like, So we wound up going to that Texas barbecue place, Buster's over on Highway 99, which is
Right.
It is
My neck of the
definitely-
woods.
It is definitely not Texas. I mean, it's not as good as barbecue in Texas, but it's Texas barbecue in Oregon, and it was still quite tasty.
Yeah.
It was still quite tasty. And my son, one of my older boy, was like, "This is totally a you place." It's the first time they'd been there, and they were looking at the menu going, "Can I just get like a chicken sandwich?" I'm like,
No smoked pork butt?
I guess if you want to, but you also could like try some of the stuff on my 3-meat combination platter. Anyway. No, but anyway, that
Yum.
was much goodness was had by all. But and then the other big thing for us this weekend was last night was my younger boy's last violin, his last concert with the Metropolitan Youth Symphony, and they had a big shindig down at the Schnitz, and so that was very cool. But the 4 nights, Saturday, Sunday. No, 3 nights, I guess, leading up to it. They had 3-hour practices, I think, just like run through everything.
Right, run through everything, yeah.
And so, but my wife and I had symphony tickets on Saturday, so we were like, you got to drive yourself on Saturday. But then my wife took him on Sunday evening, and then I took him Monday night, and then we all went to the concert on Tuesday night. So, but it was very cool, and I was pretty frustrated because there were only two performances this year that were down at the Schnitz, which is the big concert auditorium where the symphony plays and everything else.
Yeah.
And I was traveling for the first one, and I did not.
Yeah.
After that, I put all of his concerts on my calendar.
Yeah. 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 No travel these dates.
Anyway, but so it was good. So that was our weekend. It was fun. It was
Nice.
good.
So I did two other things, and one will segue into your follow up. So for Father's Day, I got myself a Pixel tablet, and this is like
Okay.
one of those. I am a iPhone iPad person, but I wanted to start playing with the Pixel tablet too, because there really aren't any Android. iPad pretty much owns the tablet space.
Yeah.
And there are very few tablets in the Android space. But I figured if anybody's going to do a good one, it's going to be Google and their Pixel.
Okay.
So I got a Pixel, and because it was actually Father's Day sale, like significantly off. I don't know that I would have got it otherwise. But it showed up this morning, and I've been playing around with it a little bit. So maybe more info on that later. But my segue topic is last week we had talked about vibe coding, right?
I think I even made that the title of the episode.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was humor. And so Saturday I got a bug, and I'm like, I wonder if I could do some vibe coding.
What is it like?
What could I do?
Okay.
Well, how good is so I picked what I thought would be the most difficult thing to have an AI completely just do everything for you. I said, can I write a iOS Swift UI based game?
Okay.
And I spent all of 30 minutes building a game. It's the basic idea of the game kind of takes a riff off of my Squares game from 15 years ago now.
A long time ago.
Right, where squares have directions and you try to clear out the square. So you drop a ball from the top of the screen, kind of like pachinko, and the arrows directed off, and you get a point for going through each arrow, and then it falls off the screen to the right or left. You get like 5 points and 10 points if you can make it fall off the bottom. So not an overly complicated concept or idea, but 30 minutes, I didn't write a single line of code, and I had a functioning game purely based on prompting Google Gemini Google Gemini Pro.
Okay. The 2.5 Pro.
The 2.5 Pro to write all the Swift code and telling it, change the color of this. Oh, make this. And sometimes the UI would be the ball row is too far above the rest of the grid. Make it attached to the grid. So there was a lot of just natural language telling it what it got wrong.
Huh.
And then I sent you, the link.
Yeah. I played it.
The longest time that it took out of that whole process was getting it all set up in Apple so that I could share it by a test flight. Oh, and hilariously, I'm not going to, but it's approved in the App Store. Apple approved it. As I thought, might as well click the button, submit for review. They've approved it. Okay, so technically I could just push it out there for anybody, but it's really a hacky game. But now I'm like, maybe there is something to this vibe coding.
Right.
It doesn't structure it how I want because it makes just one big file.
Right.
Instead of, I would separate it out into
ugliest code ever.
Yes, it is 500 contiguous lines of code, but it compiles. I never had it once not compile. I had it compile and run and have like wonky content, like it just looked all wrong. But it was like remove that last change. And I tried the new prompt. I want this thing to happen. And it's, oh, you're right. I got that wrong. Let me try again. And so then it would regenerate the entire 500 lines of code. I would cut and paste that into Xcode and click run. And it popped right up in the simulator. It doesn't do some things, like it doesn't handle certain screen sizes. And if you have your display zoom turned on or off, there's some,
Right.
It's not polished. But it was completely functional end to end.
In an hour.
add a fireworks effect when the ball drops off the screen. Done.
Huh.
And I'll be
That's
honest with you, I don't think I did not read every line of code. I just said, whatever.
what's
I'm
the value
vibing.
in the code if you're literally like copy and pasting over it?
Exactly. Anyways, I was impressed and quite happy that my career started at the point in time it did and is not starting right now. There would be less need for me right now.
Little scary. A little scary.
Yeah. Anyways,
All right. Well, the transition into follow up is because you said you used Gemini 2.5
yes,
Pro,
yes, I did.
which this past weekend would have been in preview, but they have now released the 2.5 Pro and 2.5 Flash models as stable, and they're announcing a new 2.5 flashlight. Evidently, they had a 2.0 flashlight, but flash dash light, not as in flashlight, shine a light on something.
right,
But,
right. Yeah.
But this is, it says it has an all-around higher quality than 2.0 flashlight on coding, math, science, reasoning, and multimodal benchmarks. It excels at high volume latency sensitive tasks like translation and classification with lower latency than 2.0 flashlight and 2.0 flash on a broad sample of prompts. But the crazy thing I thought in this, I actually pulled out was, so flashlight non-thinking is 10, actually both the thinking and the non-thinking are 10 cents per million tokens in and 40 cents per million tokens out, which is pretty competitive, I think. The Gemini 2.5 Pro is...
I don't understand the logic on the chart that I'm reading. The chart you said. I don't understand that.
The chart is from the Google release announcement, but yeah, I don't know. I feel like the Gemini 2.5 Pro, they have some asterisks on it because it says it's $1.25 for dollars per million tokens. And then underneath it, it says $2.50 for greater than 200,000 tokens. I'm like, so is it $1 per, or is it $1.25 per million, or is it $2.50 for greater than 120K tokens? Or maybe that's 200,
per 200,000 tokens. If you send 200,000 tokens in one, like if you upload the works of Shakespeare and ask it to do something.
Yeah, I don't know. It's a little unclear. But anyway, the Gemini 2.5 Pro is somewhere in the range of $1.25 for a million tokens in and $10 for a million tokens out. So quite expensive. But since you said code generation,
yep,
the 2.5 Lite on the code editing, no, I'm sorry, on the code generation live coder benchmark, the Gemini Flash Lite gets a 33.7% to the Gemini 2.5 Pro thinking models 69% on the code generation. So it's, the Pro is twice as good, approximately. I don't know that those are a linear improvement, but it's kind of cool how the different, various different AI model benchmarks that they've got here with their scores public. So it's pretty cool. All right. How about a non-follow-up topic?
So the topic I saw, you and I know we both use, well, at least I Apple Pay, right? You use your watch, you use a phone, you use whatever.
I do use Apple Pay.
You can pay for things with taps of your device, which is fantastic. One of the things that I don't know if you were aware of is, and I was not aware of this, even though I had this enabled for a while, Apple Pay has a express transit mode. So that's where you can walk up if the transit system supports it, which Portland's transit system does. You can just tap your phone and move on. No Face ID, no fingerprint, no confirmation. You just set up express transit mode and go. So
What could possibly go wrong?
be a challenge for if you're if you have this enabled, somebody notices you have this enabled. Hey, they could just go steal your device and use it for transit for whatever period of time. Regardless of the phone, phone's locked, doesn't matter. They can do that. Now, what the other thing they're showing, or they talk about in this article, is if they can emulate a transit terminal somehow, they could just beep, 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 keep charging your card for free and drain your phone, which apparently, the whole point of your phone is to get rid of the physical cards and, the whole security by obscurity thing with the whatever the code on the back of the card is that you do that. I mean, what's the point of that? Because you put that in your online transactions now anyways. It's just anyways. Right. So that was one of the things.
You would hope that the bank or credit card would, flag those transactions as duplicate, suspicious, fraudulent, maybe. But if you've got it tapped to I don't know what the fraud. I know the fraud laws on credit cards are pretty protective of customers in the U.S. at least, but. Yeah, I think banks a little less so, at least for second order effects. If it gets drained and something bounces, I think you're.
Well, that's what I wonder is it conceptually the same as a debit card? Because debit cards do not have the same protections as credit cards. Yeah. So I don't know. But anyways, it's not a very long article, but it was an interesting commentary on, hey, so many people are using tap to pay things now because they think it's, or maybe nobody thinks about it. Maybe it's just you and me that think about this. How much more secure they are. Maybe it's not as secure as you think.
I very much like the fact that every tap is a different identifier, and they can't, Target can't track all your spending habits because you're using the same credit card. They might be other things if you're, loyalty program or enter your phone number.
That's why the loyalty programs
yes, exactly.
exist.
But anyway.
So it was just an interesting, eye-opening article. There's a few other links on referencing some other things, but it was what is this? It's Payment Village. It's a Substack, so not a big operation, but they had some interesting points. My topic for today.
There's been this sort of slow-moving train crash going on in Italy about hacking journalists and others with spyware. And we talked about, I didn't go look up when this was. There was some stuff, it seems like a year or two ago, about some officials, government officials that had been spied on by the Italian government, believed to be. But this is interesting timing. So on this last Thursday, the Citizen Lab published a new report that detailed a forensic investigation into the iPhones of two journalists, one out of Italian, it says Italian journalist Ciro Pellegrino, and an unnamed, quote, prominent European journalist. So both journalists were hacked by the same Paragon customer based on evidence found on the two journalists' devices. But up till now, there had been no evidence that Pellegrino, who evidently works for a news website fan page, was targeted. But he was one of the people alerted by Apple at the end of April that they were being targeted by a mercenary spyware attack. Didn't mention Paragon at the time, but remember, so Paragon is not Pegasus. So we've mostly talked about Pegasus, but there are others. So it turns out that Apple had fixed this vulnerability back in April quietly, and they had not. They put out something just last week that said that about a basically a zero click. Somebody could text an image to your phone, and that gave them root or gave them the ability to control and run software on it, and that's how this happened. So the zero clicks are the worst because you literally have to do nothing. You have to be targeted. They have to know your number. They text you a malicious PDF or image or something like that, and that's it. Like, as far as you are concerned, you might never know something had happened. But Apple had sent out a number of specific notifications to people in April that their device had been targeted and exploited with the vulnerability that they fixed in April, evidently. I watched a small video on X that had the person saying that they thought that the message was a fake at first because it literally looked like an iMessage or an iOS alert. Kind of crazy. Anyway, so the timing thing here is Italy released last week there was it said Italy's parliamentary committee known as COPASIR, which oversees the country's intelligence agencies, published a report that said it had found no evidence that this other journalist, work colleague of Pellegrino's, had been spied on. And so this report, quote, confirmed that Italy's internal and external intelligence agencies were Paragon customers, but made no mention of Pellegrino. And so they literally released this report last week, and now there's evidence that no, that report was wrong. And either they were not forthcoming in the report, or the left hand doesn't know what the right hand's doing, or something along those lines. But the crazy thing here is that not Pegasus, sorry, I almost said the wrong thing. Paragon accused the Italian government of refusing its help in investigating whether these journalists were spied on with its technology. And so Paragon, because evidently that's against both Italian law and the terms of service of Paragon. Right. So Paragon, so this is interesting, and am I on the side of a spyware vendor, at least a tiny bit? I don't know. It says the company offered both the Italian government and parliament a way to determine whether its system had been used against the journalist in violation of Italian law and contractual terms. As the Italian authorities chose not to proceed with this solution, Paragon terminated its contracts in Italy. So this is the first time a spyware provider has publicly stated it cut ties with a specific customer after reports of abuse. Interesting.
Okay.
Interesting. So
there you go.
It's a bit of a
conundrum
of a mess is what I would say. A bit of a mess.
Yeah.
So, but there you go. So
all right.
Italian targeted spyware for journalists. Good times. All right. How about...
That would never happen here.
Oh, thank you.
Sorry. I ruined the vibe. Sorry.
Thank you.
Something fun.
Give me something fun. Yeah, give me something fun.
All right. Did you see the movies Spaceballs? Like late 1980s, kind of like a
yes.
spoof,
I think I watched it. I probably watched it 4 or 5 times when I was in college, maybe once after college, but I have not seen it since the 90s.
Hilarious. Spoof. Mel Brooks humor. Rick Moranis.
Did I show that to my kids when they were young?
So
I don't think so. I don't think so. I think, I'll have to ask them, but I don't think so. Anyway, okay.
Fun movie. If you're into that kind of humor, Mel Brooks
requires a lot of context.
Yes.
Every joke has like
some
2 or 3 different references. Yes.
Yeah. Anyways, apparently they're doing a Spaceballs 2.
What?
So like is this 40 years? It'll be 40 years later. Um, Amazon's MGM Studios is going to make a Spaceballs 2. And Amazon, who is doing that, declined to comment. But there is apparently this is in the works. It's going to have Mel Brooks is going to be in there, and he's going to recast his role as Yogurt. Rick Moranis will be in it. Bill Pullman will be. It's like a lot of the original characters are going to be in it again. So it just sounds. I'm hoping it's hilarious, but it's slated for 2027.
Wow.
And the film has been described by those who have not yet read the script as a non-prequel, non-reboot sequel part 2, but with reboot elements franchise expansion film. That's the quote. So I think this will, anyways, I just thought it was a funny note for any Spaceballs fans out there.
What was the last movie that Moranis was in?
He was like Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. Something? He was in Ghostbusters. I don't remember if he was in the Ghostbusters, like the later sequels, like cameos. But he has not been in. It even says in the article he hasn't been on the screen for decades. I think it's funny. I did enjoy, like, Bob and Doug McKenzie was one of my favorite things in high school, like the late 80s. I loved that humor.
I resemble that remark. Yes.
So anyways, there's some entertainment that you now have to wait a year and a half for.
Okay.
But
well, I will keep my fingers crossed.
There you go.
If it happens.
I'm sure your Something Fun is equally as weird.
I don't know. I'm clearly like pulling out biology stuff again. but this came to me in a vision. No, it came to me in a newsletter that was not at all biology related. It was like the TLDR or something like that. And I was like, wait, what? But it's another biology thing. It is a microbe that has a bizarrely tiny genome, and the clickbait headline is that the microbe might be evolving into a virus, but that I don't know. The article did not seem to support that, and the only quote in there that was even related was the scientist going, "That's kind of silly," but there's enough interesting things about this that, like, so. they I can't pronounce what this is.
I was waiting. I'm waiting for you to try to pronounce that.
Sukanarakeum.
It looks like
anyway, there are
lots of Egyptian pharaoh name of some sort is what
lots of vowels.
What I read in there.
No, it's a what was it? I thought it said it in here. I might not have pulled it out. It was like a Japanese god. It was an as-yet unofficial name inspired by Sukuna Biko Na, a small-statured deity in Japanese mythology.
Ah, okay.
And some of the scientists' names, I don't know where the University of Tsukuba is. I'm assuming Japan, I guess.
It looks Japanese.
The whole point of this is, like, so these scientists are trying to decode the genome of a host. What's this called? Sorry, you got me all kind of out of my notes.
Sorry.
So, what were they trying? So they were trying to sequence the DNA inside of this bacteria, this organism, single-celled creature called C. regius. It's a dinoflagellate, so that's kind of a cool name. But so they're trying to sequence the DNA, but inside it says expected and they're doing this because the dinoflagellate, the C. regius, is known to harbor symbiotic cyanobacteria. And so they're interested in like how they interact with each other. So it says, but alongside the expected dinoflagellate and cyanobacteria DNA and genomes of what might be bacterial parasites, they spotted a strange circle of DNA, only 238,000 base pairs long, just 5% the length of the genome of E. coli. And initially it says they suspected this tiny circular genome might be some kind of artifact, says Takuro Nakayama, an evolutionary microbiologist at Tsukuba. But when they used several methods for sequencing and assembling the genome, they kept coming across this DNA loop. And so the team was forced to conclude that some other entity, seemingly an archaeon, was living inside C. regius. And so the weird thing about this is that it says it has an inability to live outside its host with a genome that's less than half the size of the previously smallest archaeon genome. And that, so even though it's not the smallest length of base pairs, it doesn't lay claim to the smallest microbial genome, an honor that goes to a bacterium that lives in sap-feeding insects whose genome is just 160,000 base pairs long. However, that record holder bacterium contains genes that code for making molecules that are useful to its insect host. So it's like a symbiotic relationship. Whereas this bacteria, it says, lacks virtually all recognizable metabolic pathways. It likely can't make essential molecules such as amino acids. This virus or this bacteria stands apart from viruses in one notable way. It can replicate its own genetic material, so it doesn't have to depend on its host cell to replicate itself. And that it says almost all of this bacteria's identified genes are involved in DNA replication, transcription, and translation, but that the microbes focus on self-propagation, even at the expense of nearly all metabolic capabilities, resembles viral strategy. So that's kind of what is it? But the coolest thing about this is, so they went and sifted through publicly available DNA sequences extracted from seawater from all over the world and found many sequences similar to those of Secunarchaeum. That's when we realized that they had not found a single strange organism, but had uncovered the first complete genome of a large, previously unknown archaeal lineage. It says this whole, I don't actually quite know what an archaeon is, but it says that an archaeon is a lineage of simple cellular organisms more closely related to complex organisms like us than to bacteria like E. coli. So, like, crazy cool. So, anyway, the end of the quote of the article is, the find is a reminder of how much remains to be discovered. This work emphasizes how crazy, beautiful, and still poorly understood biology is. So,
always something to learn.
Poorly understood is right. So, anyway, I don't know. I thought that was totally cool. They're like, somebody spoiled my data. What's with this? What's with this DNA loop here? And why is it in all these other ones too? What's going on here? And hence, that's science. They must have written it down. So
clearly.
Anyway, I saw the article. I was like, there you go. Done deal.
Very cool.
Something fun.
All right,
my friend.
Well, thanks, John.
Have a great night.
Have a good one.
I'll talk to you later.
We'll see you. Bye.